Joining us now from the great state of Hawaii is Kaniela Ing. He is a Just Democrat, and he is in an interesting race there. And boy, Kaniela, you must have him running scared, because whenever a candidate's doing well, here comes a smear job. So what's the one they unleashed on you?
Well, they went. First of all, thanks for having me on. But the rumor has it, or at least what we're hearing, is that they hired one of the best opposition researchers from DC, this guy who's notorious. He was Chuck Schumer's guy. And they paid him tens of thousands of dollars to fly to Hawaii and dig up a folder about everything that they could possibly use negative against me. So they're, accusing me of all sorts of things. Looked at my LinkedIn profile and things that were not updated, and just throwing the book at me. So we're just trying to get beyond that. It's called an oppo dump, right? They fed it to the media, and it's kind of expected, because we've been calling out a lot of the forces that not just control our politics, but also are the advertisers for corporate media, and they pay these people salaries, right? So in Hawaii, that's like luxury developers, that's the longline fishing lobby, that's corporations like Monsanto. So we expected this much, but it seems like this is about more than the race. They want to make an example out of me and stop the progressive movement in its tracks here. So we're just talking about the issues, pushing it, not just Medicare for all, ending reckless wars, debt-free college, pushing the envelope, talking about student loan cancellation, universal basic income, federal job guarantee, and of course, getting money out of politics, rejecting all corporate PAC money. This is the first time it's ever been done in this district. I think that's part of the problem too. There's never been a candidate who was fully funded by the people, and 5,000 donors this race, by far the district record, averaging around $20 at a time. And I don't think that the establishment's afraid of me. I think they're afraid of those people, those 5,000 who are building a movement here in Hawaii.
So part of the problem is that you don't have oppo research. I've never, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've just never seen a progressive candidate that had an oppo research part of their campaign, whereas almost all the establishment Democrats have an oppo research team. So then you run into an uneven playing field. I bet you if I went in to your primary opponent's LinkedIn, that she probably didn't refresh it either, right? But we never get to find out about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff going on, and it does seem like the scales is often tilted to one side. But yeah, I mean, our donors are like working class people, right? Chipping in $5, $10, sometimes $1 at a time. They're not rich people who are investing, like you said, in their races to see windfalls later in their corporations. So every dollar counts, and this idea that I'm going to use the money that these working people give me to just smear my opponents just seemed very unattractive for me. Looking back, maybe that's like necessary, but it just seemed like such a bad way to campaign. I'd rather inspire people with an affirmative vision, like of a better world, where people have health care and they can afford homes here in Hawaii. When right now, for my generation, you got to be making $200,000 a year out of high school or college just to be in the middle class to afford a home, because homes are $770,000 now. So that's what I want to talk about. I don't want to be talking about how many homes my opponent owns or what kind of suits he wears or whatever. It's just not. It's just, I don't feel like that's what people care about, but that's all we tend to see in the corporate media because of the incentive. So we're just sticking to the issues and continuing to build a positive movement and try our best to just brush it off and keep trucking along.
So I'm of two minds on that, Kaniela. So, here you are, you got a ton of momentum and you're doing great, and they try to stop you in your tracks by doing the smear job, right? So, and Bernie Sanders didn't hit Hillary Clinton either, right? And a lot of us progressive asked him to hit her, but it's not in his nature and he didn't do it. But they started oppo research on Bernie right now. Politico did 2 negative articles about him this week, back to back. Right, so the 2020 smears have begun, let alone in races like yours. By the way, Kaniela, I know you're doing great, because there are no smears in campaigns that aren't doing well. Right? They don't bother to send Schumer's guy out, right? So maybe the answer is to fight back against the media, because it's like doing spending people's money on Oppo research of your opponent and finding out, what they did wrong back in 1987, et cetera, those kind of stuff that they do is one thing. It's another thing to say, hey, media, where did you get that story, right? Did you go and look it up yourself? It was your idea? Why don't you be honest about it, right? Who gave you that story? So they never ever talk about it. They make it seem like, oh man, I'm an enterprising young reporter, and golly gee, look at what I dug up. So I don't know, what's your take on that? Because you can't just have it be one-sided.
Well, first of all, I should say that one of the complaints has been some like misreporting in my past races when I was in my early 20s and working full time and campaigning and also trying to do the counting. So one person doing 10 jobs. I have made mistakes, and I'm taking ownership for them, and doing whatever I can to fix it in the meantime. The fact that that's been dug up on me and not other candidates who have similar irregularities is concerning, and I do think there's some sort of bias there. So I think it's fair to call a spade, but also just to ask media, like, why aren't you talking about these issues that matter to people? Like, we had a video where I talked about like the things holding back change here in Hawaii, how the same people who donate to Donald Trump are donating to Democrats, yet the Democrats want to just fight Trump and pretend it takes courage to stand up to Donald Trump in a blue state where 90% of people hate him. And I said that in a speech, right? And it went viral. Over 9.4 million people have seen it. It's the most watched congressional video in the nation. But that doesn't make the news, right? Because I'm exposing the people that are kind of controlling our politics here in Hawaii and speaking with a new level of truth that's rare. So if someone's speaking truth and they're going to say, this person's inauthentic, and here's why. If someone's young and refreshing, they're going to say, well, he's immature and irresponsible, and that's kind of the narrative, and then they fit all the opposition into that narrative. So that's what's happening here, and that's just the tack they're taking. Now, I don't mind looking at comparing my record to my opponent's record. I think that's fair. That's what campaign should be all about. I'm the only candidate in this race who, of course, does not accept any corporate PAC money, but I'm the only candidate championing debt-free college or tuition-free college, Medicare for all, ending reckless wars, abolishing ICE. Where I'm the only candidate, just not even progressive values, just baseline democratic values. All 3 out of 4 of my opponents have histories opposing marriage equality, women's reproductive freedom, and criminal justice reform. So it just, when you talk about the issues and our records, we're going to win. And we don't really need to talk about the personal stuff, really.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're pointing out 2 different things that makes me way angrier than you are, even though you're the one being attacked. So number one is, you're right, you never get positive coverage. When's the last time, and it's so hilarious that they call the mainstream media liberal. When's the last time any liberal got any positive coverage from the mainstream media? I mean, that viral video of yours, and I saw it, 9.4 million views for a congressional candidate who's not an incumbent. I mean, that is astounding. That should have been all over the news in Hawaii. Oh my God, this native son of Hawaii is on fire. The whole world is watching his video, right? And that's probably more views than almost all the other candidates in the country combined. I can't overstate that. That's huge, right? Nothing. And then on the other side, did that same reporter, I'm way angrier than you are. So did that same reporter dig into the same exact campaign finance records of all of your opponents? No way they did. So when you just do it to one candidate, that tells me that you were targeting that candidate. And by the way, it wasn't even you, it was an apparatchik who gave you that, and you pretend to be a reporter. Now, if the apparatchik gave you that and then you went and did your independent research and looked at all the candidates in the race, that's a different story. But they don't do that. So they aid and abet the destruction of progressives. So anyway, bless your heart for staying positive, brother. All right, so look, give us a sense before you go, although I'm gonna look up that reporter. I'm gonna come for them. Anyway, give us a sense of the state of your race and why they chose to attack you in the first place, because obviously you've got momentum. They're not going to bother doing it otherwise. So how many volunteers do you have? Any other positive news in the race?
Yeah, we have hundreds of volunteers signed up, over 5,000 individual donors, as I stated earlier. Phone bankings every day, canvassing every weekend. We're picking up a lot of momentum, and we're speaking truth with a new level of truth that hasn't ever before was seen here in Hawaii before. So it's exciting. I'm really encouraged. Of course, we need a lot more support. As most of these progressive candidates, we cannot raise as much as the machine candidates can. We're talking about Lockheed Martin, Boeing, the long line fishing lobby that's going to wipe out tuna from the ocean. If you guys like sushi, you should support our campaign. We're talking about big
pitch.
oil.
I just donated.
No, seriously, like tuna will be gone by 2040 in Hawaii. We're like control of the fish supply here, and this lobby does not want any protections. They're one of the biggest lobbies here. Same goes for Monsanto. So same goes for big oil. We have an anti-solar corporation that's trying to take over our utility here in Hawaii. And these are problems that are happening all across the nation. Our islands will be underwater within my son's lifetime unless we act on climate now. So that's why we're taking such aggressive stances. And we're naming names. It's never been done before in Hawaii because that's not aloha, right? That's not aloha style to name names. What's not aloha is allowing like these corporations to trample over the most vulnerable people in our society, the people we love. And that's what's happening. That's what's been happening in my lifetime. And it's just so sad to see 70% of my classmates move to the mainland. They couldn't afford it here. I have a 2-year-old son. I just want to make sure he has a shot, right? That's why we do this work. And that's why, if any of your viewers can chip in whatever they can to KanielaIng.com, just $5, $10, whatever you can afford. It goes a long way. I think last time we were on the show, we had quite a big boost of a few $1,000s, and that kind of thing really helps because, look, if I say this in a TV ad, even though we don't really like TV, that's how most elderly voters get their information. Mm-hmm. If we say these things in an ad, it's going to stick more than the plastic stuff that my opponents are saying, right? Because we're able to be more honest. And so, if we can get this message on TV and on the radio and continue to knock on doors like I did since my first race, we're going to win. So please, whatever you can do.
Right. And if you're watching this video later, we'll have links down below for donating, volunteering, etc. But anyone watching it live or otherwise, KanielaIng.com, okay? And get in the fight. And look, if you're out there and you're watching this interview and you're anywhere near as mad as I am about the nonstop attack against progressives, circle the wagons, man. Circle the wagons and support your own. So Kaniela's out there fighting, and if you should watch my previous interviews with him. The way he got elected in the first place by knocking on every voter's door 3 times. It's one of the greatest stories I've ever heard. So Kaniela, I'm a believer. So keep fighting, brother.
Thank you. This is our fight, especially our generation. It's been rigged against us. So we gotta join in this battle, and we gotta seize power. It's not going to be given to us. We're not going to relinquish a seat. We need a revolution to take it back.
There you go.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
All right, thank you, man. Thanks for joining us.